Hello everyone. The topic we're going to talk about today is modern currency systems through the ATP-ADP cycle, insights from nature's energy currency. Before we dive into the main content, here's a quick look at what we'll be covering today. We'll start with a brief introduction, then explore how the ATP-ADP cycle works and why it's often compared to a battery. Next, we'll discuss the idea of decentralization in the context of ATP-ADP molecules. From there, we'll shift to a broader perspective, drawing parallels between cellular logic and central banking systems. We'll also touch on the gold standard and how it relates to ATP. And finally, we'll wrap everything up with a conclusion.
Today I'll be discussing a very interesting connection between biology and economics. Have you ever thought about how energy flows within living organisms? One fascinating molecule, ATP adenosine triphosphate, serves as the universal energy currency, powering cellular functions in all life forms. Similar to how many facilitate economic transactions, ATP enables biological processes by storing and transferring energy efficiently. This decentralized energy system operates continuously through ATP-ADP cycle, ensuring a constant supply of usable energy. Now, interestingly, this natural mechanism can provide insight into transferring modern currency systems into a more sustainable and decentralized model. Now, the question is, could humanity develop an energy currency that mimics ATP and making financial systems more efficient, equitable, and resilient? In this presentation, we are going to explore ATP-ADP cycle, its decentralized nature, and how it compares to traditional monetary systems like the gold standard.
Now I'm going to talk about ATP, one of the most crucial molecules in our body. ATP stores and transfers energy within cells and is essential for every cellular activity in all living organisms, humans, animals, plants, and bacteria. Think of ATP as an energy carrier, while ATP acts as a storage unit that needs recharging. Structurally, ATP consists of ribose, adenine, and 3 phosphate groups. ATP has the same components but only 2 phosphate groups. ATP contains high energy bonds, particularly between the second and third phosphate groups. To release energy, the third phosphate bond is broken in a process called hydrolysis, which results in ATP breaking down into ATP, inorganic phosphate, pi, and energy. This process happens not only during physical activity, but also when transmitting neurotransmitters in our body. Just like a battery, ATP stores energy and releases it when needed. When ATP loses one phosphate group and becomes ATP, it can be recharged back into ATP by adding a phosphate group, creating a continuous cycle. This cycle powers many essential life functions, making ATP the energy currency that drives cellular processes.
So now I'm going to talk about 2 aspects of decentralization. The first one is that when a cell spends ATP, it loses a phosphate group and becomes ADP. ADP is then recycled and recharged into ATP using energy from food, such as glucose and fats, or sunlight. This ensures constant energy flow without central control. And this process can be explained in 3 parts. ATP, primarily synthesized in the mitochondrial matrix, fuels high-energy processes like ion transport, muscle contraction, and nerve transmission. It diffuses rapidly to meet cellular demands, acting as a kinase substrate in phosphorylation and signaling cascade. Enzymes like ATPases and kinases regulate ATP and ADP conversion, ensuring energy availability. The adenine nucleotide transporter, as known as ANT, exchanges ATP4- and ATP3- across the mitochondrial membrane, sustaining cytomastic ATP while maintaining membrane potential. The second aspect is that every cell makes, spends, and recycles its own ATP without relying on a central authority, like a government or a bank. Energy supply is self-regulated based on local demand. Cells don't ask permission to use ATP. ATP, produced in mitochondria, powers biosynthesis, signaling, and active transport in the cytoplasm, endoplasmic reticulum, and nucleus. Its rapid turnover ensures continuous regeneration, preventing depletion or excess. As an unstable molecule, ATP releases energy as heat unless utilized, which cells manage through energy coupling. Just as ATP is constantly moving between mitochondria and different cellular compartments, money flows between individuals, businesses, and banks to facilitate economic activities.
ATP is produced and consumed locally in a fully decentralized and self-regulating way. Modern currencies, by contrast, are centrally issued and managed by governments and financial institutions. This raises a question. What if our human monetary systems could evolve to resemble ATP? The first possible aspect is decentralization. Decentralized digital currencies like DAI offer a model where money is created through transparent algorithms rather than central authorities. It uses smart contracts to maintain price stability and supply regulation, demonstrating how financial ecosystems can operate like biological systems, autonomously and responsively. Second is energy-backed currency. ATP represents actual usable energy. We could imagine a system where currency issuance is tied to energy production. For example, Solar Coin rewards users with 1 coin for every megawatt hour of solar power they produce. Likewise, Tesla earns tradable carbon credits by reducing emissions. Now imagine, you walk, bike, or generate clean electricity and earn credits you can actually spend. That's an ATP-like model in human society. Efficient circulation via instant value exchange. This is the third aspect. Traditional currencies, especially in cross-border contexts, are slow and costly to move, but this is changing. USDC, a blockchain-based stablecoin, enables near-instant transactions. Meanwhile, Ripple is building infrastructure for real-time international payments, reducing friction like ATP's transfer within biological systems. While we may never fully replicate the biological precision of ATP, we can certainly learn from its design principles. However, challenges remain. Standardizing energy units across regions is complex, and technical and policy frameworks are still evolving.
The next question is, did the gold standard work like ATP in biology? They are similar in some ways, but the key differences in flexibility and adaptability show why the gold standard failed in the end. At the first page, ATP and the gold standard play a similar role. ATP carries and transfers energy in the living things, storing and releasing it through a rapid process. In the gold standard, the amount of money depends on how much gold a country had. This helps control the value of money. In both cases, a limited resource, ATP or gold, were used to manage the system. However, ATP is much more flexible than the gold standard. Cells can produce ATP when needed, adjusting the supply based on demand. There are also different ways to make ATP, so there is always enough energy. The gold standard, on the other hand, was limited by how much gold could be mined. It could not adjust when the economy needed more money or less money. This made it hard to deal with inflation, deflation, or financial crisis. What if gold standard worked like ATP? If the gold standard had just more flexible, maybe it could have lasted longer. Imagine a system where the virtual gold could increase as the economy grows, or where technology could adjust money supply in real time, like ATP production in cells. But even with these ideas, a gold-based system could still face poverty, conflicts, or the economic struggles. Biology does not have these problems. So, why the gold standard could never be like ATP? The main difference is simple. ATP works a controlled environment, while the gold standard depends on the physical resource that we cannot easily change. More importantly, the economy is affected by policies, wealth gaps, and international conflicts, much more unpredictable than biological processes. The gold standard did not fail because it was bestly designed. It fails because it could not keep up with the fast-changing economy. Just like ATP cannot power a steam engine, the gold standard cannot support today's digital economy.
In conclusion, ATP serves as a prime example of a decentralized, self-regulating energy system. By examining its efficiency, we can draw valuable parallels to modern financial systems. Unlike centralized monetary policies that can lead to inflation or instability, ATP maintains balance through its continuous cycle of energy release and regeneration. If modern economies could adopt a similar decentralized and self-regulating system, it might lead to more resilient and sustainable financial structures. Nevertheless, challenges remain. Standardizing energy units across regions is complex. It may widen inequality for those lacking energy access, and technical and policy frameworks are still evolving. However, as technology advances, the idea of an energy-based economy may become more feasible. Future research could bridge the gap between biology and economics, leading to financial models that promote both stability and fairness. Thank you.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you find this information helpful.